Welcome, everyone. Pilar Connects with the experts. That is the idea of this segment. And today I am excited about my guest, Dr. César Lara. He has over 30 years of experience in traditional medicine. He is a doctor certified by the board in many different areas and also in functional medicine. He is certified as an energy healer as well. What does that mean? That he focuses in helping people in a holistic way. It's not only about treating an illness that someone has, but it's understanding more into the process to be able to prevent and cure. But he can explain better this wonderful way of having the best of the West and the East medicine. Welcome, Dr. Lara.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me participate in educating and giving some perspective to the community to bring attention to the fact that ultimately we have the ability as human beings, when we're in touch with our inner, most beautiful light that lies inside of us, to truly heal ourselves from within.
How do we do it? We can start in many different ways, but when you see a patient that comes to your office, usually what is one of the biggest misconceptions about health and well-being that you are seeing?
So from a traditional perspective, because at one time I was practicing traditional medicine since I was very young. It was always my dream to become a doctor and to help the community, to deliver babies, to take care of children, to take care of adults and the grandmothers. And so I evolved into that experience. And then after many years where I developed a very successful following and I was a very successful physician, I came to the reality that I wasn't really helping my patients heal. And there's a difference between healing and putting patches on a condition. So in traditional medicine, you learned that this is normal. And anything outside of that is abnormal. And so those abnormal parts is what traditional medicine generally focuses on. So it's really a system that is a disease-based system. So if you come to the doctor and you say, I feel tired, and the doctor does his workup, and at the end, all the blood tests turn out to be normal, he will tell you there's nothing wrong with you. And then you can tell them, yeah, but I don't feel well. And 9 out of 10 times, they will more likely suggest to you the prescription of an antidepressant, because it's just a bucket where a lot of things end up landing. If you come into the doctor and somehow or other, they find out you have a high cholesterol, in addition to telling you that you need to eat less, maybe exercise, they will give you a medication. And that medication will definitely improve the number of the cholesterol, but is not going to get rid of the problem. And that's what happens with diabetes and with all the different conditions. So the way that I perceive patients nowadays, when you come into my practice, and instead of me reflecting on you and thinking, well, you have hypertension, you have high cholesterol, you have diabetes, and therefore you're more likely going to experience A, B, C, and D, and I better give you these pills to try to slow it down or prevent it or somehow interact with it. The way that I see my patients now is when they come in, I tend to focus on what is going right with them. I tend to focus on the healed part of themselves. And so in the work that I do as an energy doctor, I realize that wherever I put my attention, that's what's going to grow. And so if I end up putting my attention on the disease, then I realize that I'm going to eventually need subspecialists, and eventually I'm going to need not one medicine, but 2 medicines. And eventually my patients are going to feel that they are their disease. What I want them to realize is that they are their health. And so the intention is how to heal and how to be able to address from a wellness perspective rather than how to address someone from a disease perspective. And so that's a big shift in terms of the functional perspectives that brings along. But more importantly, it's huge in terms of the stories that people begin to integrate into their understanding of who they are. So in today's day, it's not uncommon if you meet someone in their 50s or 60s and you say, how's your health? They'll say something like, oh, I am a diabetic. I am a hypertensive. Oh, I've had, I'm a cancer survivor. So they tend to identify themselves with the diseases, with all these different things. And the reality is that they're more than that, right? But unfortunately, in the disease-based orientation of our traditional Western medicine, we are just looking at disease as the way to quantitate someone's experience. I'm focusing on this time in my life and helping people see their healed selves and begin to not think in terms of disease, but think in terms of how to make you healthier. And that brings a whole different shift in how I approach a patient.
Absolutely. And it's the essence, because of course we are more than that. And you are absolutely right. Where we focus our attention, all the energy is going to go, and the power of the mind. So now these days that we are all facing these challenging times, staying at home, being quarantined, let's explain that new way of seeing the life of a person, because I know I have been talking to you, and I have seen you in many interviews, and I have seen many of your help in the community, that is understanding these 4 areas of our lives that is going to help us: the body, the brain, the soul, and spirit. Everything starts with what we eat. Is that right?
Yes. So for example, one of my areas of expertise is obesity. And obesity usually means just excess weight. And so it's easy for someone to think that a person is overweight because they eat more than they burn. And so because they're eating more than they burn, then they tend to gain weight. So that's the linear way of thinking in terms of the problem of excess weight. But the large majority of people who truly have problems with excess weight and have a chronic condition, they will tell you that they don't eat that much. They will tell you that they are trying to do everything to make themselves well, but the circumstances of whatever they are preventing them from being able to achieve that. And so indeed, within the context of that particular condition, like any other condition, what you put in your mouth matters. So if you're focusing purely on lowering the amount of calories that you're putting into your body and trying to increase the amount of burn in your body, you will become very frustrated, because you will find that you're eating this bar for breakfast, you're literally eating a little thing for lunch and a little thing for dinner, and you're finding that calorie-wise, you're really not putting that much, but you're not releasing the excess weight. So what is the problem? The problem is that it's not really about calories, it's about the quality of food and what types of food you're putting into your body. So the body is our temple. It's this beautiful machine. The way I like to reflect upon it is like our Ferrari. It's our beautiful horse. It's our beautiful vehicle by which we experience this lifetime, experience this life. And so we really need to focus on taking care of it. Unfortunately, in our society, we have had circumstances and events such as the powers to be that have come to support the sugar industry to such an extent that everything that is available quick and easy is literally full of sugar. And we wonder why we have so many diabetics. 2/3 of our community are overweight or obese. In our children, 1/3 of our children now are obese. And the problem of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer continues to expand. We have huge medical buildings dedicated to cancer therapy, to diabetes therapy, but we don't have any buildings dedicated to the wellness of somebody. We don't have any buildings dedicated to the fact that you can heal yourself. And the way that it starts is by taking care of your body. And so the primary way to really focus on that is that we need to eat more greens. It's such a simple thing that you could have asked your grandmother and my grandmother, and they would tell you that tomatoes, vegetables, onions, garlic, all these wonderful things that have been part of our human evolution all this time, those are the products that literally can help begin to heal our body. If we eat too many sugars, we're going to have problems with our insulin. We're going to be feeding the cancers. We're going to be feeding the heart disease. And so part of my work is really dedicated to, first and foremost, I need to help this vehicle become optimal. And that means that we need to learn how to eat. We need to release all those things that are no longer making us healthy. And if without that, our brain cannot function. So for example, if we're not taking care of what we're eating, then the food that is being transformed into energy in our body is being transformed into chemicals that are going to make our body want more sugar. Our brain is going to require more sugar. We're not going to be able to get the sleep that we want, and we're going to start taking medications to try to get rid of symptoms. So the primary aspect in everything that we do from the perspective of healing is definitely dedicated towards beginning to heal that vessel, beginning to heal this amazing vehicle. And that requires that we reconnect with Mother Nature, because all the wonderful things that come from the earth have the ability to heal every single disease out there. And so, and all the wonderful discoveries, whether it's penicillin, whether it's any medication out there, most of them, if not all of them, have their foundation and what's found on Mother Earth. It's just that somebody was able to figure something out in the field, and then they made it into in a lab with lots of chemicals and are being able to sell it to us at a profit. So I get that we're living in a very dynamic world where things are easy to buy when they're mass produced, but the true healing of our body occurs when we connect and reconnect with the wonderful, beautiful food that comes from Mother Earth, directly from her. And that goes for animals as well as vegetables.
Absolutely. So now a lot of people find in those type of products, the sugar or the things that are not good for them, even in liquor sometimes, that sense of, oh, because we cannot do these other things, or we are at home. And let's talk to that person that maybe, yeah, this sounds interesting. We know how to eat, but tomorrow. And you started to talk a little bit about the brain. I want to address to these people right now, where can they start? And besides that, that emotional excuse that, oh, because I am in fear, or the anxiety, or because I know even before eating, the breathing could be very helpful to help us make better decisions. So I would like to stop for a second and talk to them in this very moment, that what can they do? Because you were right at the beginning saying all the stories in their minds will allow them to make decisions. Oh, I feel better. But after that, tomorrow you feel even worse. And that will be a snowball cycle. What would you tell to start from where?
So the first thing that I would like everyone to appreciate is that it's not really their fault. Okay, they're being driven by circumstances and events that they don't even realize it. So for example, sugar, and I'm talking about glucose, not just the white sugar that we put on things, but I'm talking about pasta, I'm talking about bread, I'm talking about carbohydrates that ultimately become glucose or sugar in the body. Sugar is about 10 to 20 times more addictive than cocaine. Okay, so they done studies with animals where they give them cocaine, they're addicted, and then they put them a little bit of water sugar, and before you know it, the animals begin to go away from the cocaine and start drinking the water sugar, because water sugar is addictive. And so a lot of times a person may say, I really need to do something, and tomorrow I'm going to start, and I'm going to start eating A, B, C, and D. I'm not going to eat this anymore. But what happens is, in addition to your brain being addicted and your body being addicted to the sugar, the other problem is that our bodies are made of over 100 trillion cells. But of those 100 trillion cells, only 10% of them have our own DNA. The other 90% of the cells that make up the human body are actually bacteria. Bacteria that the universe or God created to live in harmony with our own cells. And so our body is really a community of cells where 10% of them have our own DNA. The other 90% are bacteria. Now, because of the circumstances of how food comes to our table and the fact that there's so much more sugar and pesticides and hormones and all kinds of colorings and all types of chemicals in the food, we are destroying our healthy bacteria. And so in a lot of the patients or a lot of the people that are having challenges being able to stick to eating the things that are low in sugar or have no sugar, the problem is that the bacteria in their gut is so dysfunctional, and the bacteria in their gut sends direct messages to the brain that say, I'm dying. You need to give me a piece of donut, otherwise I'm gonna die. And then the brain begins to rationalize and say, well, wait a second, maybe if I just have a bite, maybe if I just have a little one, and we begin to make decisions. So first and foremost, I want you to appreciate, and the listener to appreciate, that it's not something that is weak in their mind or is not something that they cannot do. They really are at the mercy of these dysfunctional systems that are part of their body. But having said that, that doesn't mean that you have no power or control over it. You just need to appreciate that, okay, these bacteria are really driving me crazy and they're wanting me to eat this stuff, and I'm not gonna do it. Don't identify that that is you. That is not you that wants that sugar. It is really the dysfunctional bacteria. So that helps in the journey, because many times I find that patients that are coming into my practice, they're already feeling down. They feel like they can't do nothing. They feel like they're at the last mercy and they feel like something's wrong with them, like they're not good enough. And so I like to bring attention that you are beautiful, you are perfect, you just have a couple of things that are off balance. But talking a little bit more specific to the question of what can you do when you're thinking of anxiety. Oh my God, I just heard so many people die. I just heard that, we're going to lose the jobs. I just heard that the money's not coming in. We're not able to open up a restaurant yet. And whatever circumstances you find yourself in, you suddenly begin to feel anxiety and stress. One of the primary ways that I really feel is important is to stop and learn to breathe. And I think that you were addressing a little bit of that. So for me, what happens if you can imagine yourself going in a roller coaster, and as the little train is going up, you're beginning to feel that tension. Oh my God, it's about to come. When you get to the top and the thing goes down, what is the thing that we all do? we hold our breath, and that tells you that when we hold our breath, we're stimulating the nervous system. We're literally frozen, or we're ready to run away because we're holding our breath. So we are stimulating what's called the flight or fight response, or freeze. It's flight, fight, or freeze, because some of us freeze when we're anxious. And so the best way to release it is to breathe out. And so the breathing is a pattern that helps us using the word hack. We can actually hack our nervous system by learning to breathe out twice as long as we breathe in. So for example, breathing in will be 3 seconds. Breathing out will be 5 seconds. If you do breathing in 3 seconds, breathing out 5 or 6 seconds, you will soon, because in the breathe out, you're actually stimulating what's called the parasympathetic system that literally calms your nerves, begins to release the hormones of stress, and begins to increase the hormones that help you heal. And so such a simple breathing technique, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel stressed, stop and do 7 to 10 breaths where you literally just, and I like to use sometimes a little mantra that helps me connect. And the mantra is, I am, when I breathe in, and when I breathe out, my breath. So it will be something like this. I am. My breath. and you just do I am my breath, basically it's the same concept as breathing in for, if you normally breathe in for 3 seconds, you will breathe out for 5 or 6. If you breathe in for 4, you breathe out for 8. And so the intention is to breathe out twice as long. And that is the way to hack your nervous system so that you stop the emotions of stress and begin to refocus on the moment.
Very, very powerful and available to all of us right here, right now, in that precious present moment. Body, brain. Now before we finish this interview, let's go to the soul and spirit. And we are trying to put everything together in a 20-minute interview, and I really appreciate that. It's too much to talk. Maybe we do another one in the future, but it's so helpful and it's so powerful that even if we touch just the surface of it, it brings awareness and it brings attention. So the energy, and then we will go to that higher self.
So of course the body is simple to understand. Is basically when you're dealing with the body, you're dealing with chemicals, right? You're dealing with atoms and molecules, whether it's in the brain or in the body. When you're dealing with the mind, you're really dealing with belief systems. What can I do? You know, so oh, I'm not supposed to do this. Well, who told you you can't do that? Well, somewhere along the line I learned it.
The conversation within.
So when it comes to the brain, outside of the cellular functions, and we were talking cellular before when we're talking sugar, when we're talking that, but now when we're moving to the actual brain function, we need to bring attention to the belief systems, and we need to recognize that when we're talking about the body, we're talking about cells, we're talking about molecules, we're talking about hormones. When we're talking about the mind, as opposed to the brain, when we're talking about the mind, we're talking about belief systems. And the belief systems communicate through the process of words. So we need to pay attention to what words we're saying to ourselves and what words we're saying to others, because the belief system is inscribed into our field of the mind through the process of words. Then we move a step deeper, and we understand first and foremost that when we're dealing with the mind, for example, if we believe that we're sick, we can make ourselves sick, right? And if we believe that we're healthy, we can make ourselves healthy. And so understanding that, we know that if we take care of the body, it's wonderful. But if we don't take care of the mind, we could have a perfectly working body, but if we feel like we're going to get sick, we are literally making ourselves sick, because our mind can make us sick or make us healthy. And so understanding our belief systems within the context of the mind can help heal the body. Because if the body could be dysfunctional, but if the mind believes that it's going to get better, it will get better. Okay? The next step to go higher is to go now to what I call the soul. And the soul is really reflective of the energy that each of us has around that. It's, some people can look at it as an aura, but the soul really is the one that holds the map by which we make decisions in our lifetime. And that map or compass is based on a lot of belief systems that have been given to us through society. And many times it also holds traumas that we have lived through. So it could have been as a child, you were abandoned, or you had that horrible first boyfriend that did something that wasn't kind, or you had a divorce, or you had a bad experience. So all of these experiences are literally held from an energetic perspective in what we consider to be the soul. The way that we begin to heal the soul is through rituals, through the rituals of being, because in the rituals, you begin to bring attention to shifting things. So that's why if you put a candle to a saint, if you make a fire, if you have an altar in your home and you put little flowers to this virgin or to Jesus Christ or to Buddha, or you have a little pond, if you bring those types of processes, you can literally begin to shift the field in that is part of your soul. Because at the end of the day, our soul feeds our mind, that feeds our body. And if we can change the experiences at the level of the soul, then we're actually shifting the experiences at the level of the mind and at the level of the body. So that's how miracles are often happening, that we actually begin to bring attention to. Maybe you went to a little chapel and you truly believed in something, and every time you put a candle and you really believe that through that candle and that ritual you were connecting to higher power than you, and you were asking for this particular favor and you wanted to help in that, and then suddenly it happens. Well, it didn't happen because of your body, it didn't happen because of your mind, it happened because you integrated a soul journey within the context of your healing. And so those are the first three. And then the last one, that is our bigger part of ourselves, is the spirit. And the spirit is really how we connect to the totality of everything that we are. And we begin to bring attention to the fact that we are not our bodies. We are not, I'm not the doctor. Those are just roles that I have. It's a deeper aspect than that. And you begin to realize that you're truly a expression of God, and you begin to recognize and connect to the totality of what that is, and you begin to bring healing at that level. And when you bring healing at the level of the spirit, then it transcends into healing the soul, which then transcends into healing the mind and into healing the body. And so these are the 4 levels that allow us to ascend into our healing spiritual journeys, which is why we're here in this journey of life to begin with.
It's fascinating. Thank you, doctor, for making it easy and simple to understand. And we know that as easy as it is to understand, it takes the willingness to do it, to actually be aware of it and be awake in that process. The best moment to do it is right now, right? So it's the very good best moment to start is wherever we are. Any final thought before we finish this wonderful interview? And as I say, thank you. I'm very grateful for your time, for your knowledge, for your wisdom. This is a subject that to me is fascinating. When you start that journey, the way you mention it, it's magical, it's real magical. So any word that you would like to share after all the information you have already to end this interview in a very high note to our viewers?
So, bringing attention to the circumstances that our communities and the world finds itself today, we can definitely begin to focus on the fact that, oh my God, the economy is going this way. All these people are getting sick, and begin to create a lot of fear and anxiety for ourselves. But try to look beyond that. Try to see, what is happening outside of that. Our earth is healing. We were literally destroying the forest. We literally were destroying the water. We were literally destroying the oxygen that we depend upon. And so if you look around what has happened over the last 4-6 weeks that we've been under this quarantine type of mentality, the earth is healing itself. You hear the birds singing, and you hear a lot more, the cleanliness of the waters are coming back. The trees are beginning to grow again. So there's this rejuvenation, this rebirth. We just finished right now with Easter, and Easter is usually a time of rejuvenation, a rebirth in a lot of ways. It symbolizes, at least from the perspective of Christ, that he was able to defeat the idea of death and was able to transcend beyond that. And so it's also beautiful that it's also happening at the same time that our earth is transcending and rejuvenating, and spring is in the air. And then at the level of the home, yes, it's a bummer that we can't go to restaurants. Yes, it's a bummer that we have to stay inside. We can't go out with our friends, and we can't go out with our families and hang out with them like we used to. But it's also helping us focus into what's important for us. It's a time for us to heal inside. It's a time for us to ask the following 3 questions. Where did I come from? Who am I? And where am I going? And if you truly ask these questions in a little room where you have time to answer them for yourself, Maybe have a little candle to create a little bit of an altar, to create a little bit of a ceremony, and stay with that question. Where did I come from? And I can tell you that you may have come through your mom's womb, but that's not where you came from. But that's where you came through, but not where you came from. And when you begin to ask the question, who am I can tell you that I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a doctor, I'm a brother, I'm a husband, I'm a son. These are roles that we play. So as you get deeper into it, you'll come to appreciate the essence of you. And when you begin to appreciate that and you ask the final question, where am I going? There's a sense of comfort and confidence that will come to you, because you will know that this is but a journey of learning, of love, and that there's so much more richness to every aspect of yourself. So hold yourself, give yourself a big hug, and appreciate the blessings that you have.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you soon.